Welcome to a new way. He has put you on a new journey. Hold close to him and follow what he says. Sent the final prophet Muhammad to mankind a mercy.
All right, let's get started. Ina alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. I'd like to welcome everybody to our new series of how to perform the prayer. How to perform the prayer, how to pray from A to Z. And how are we learning how to pray? The way the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to pray, not from a method. We're not praying from a mat, learning how to pray from a method. We're not learning how to pray from somebody else's viewpoint. Okay, and before I begin, let me just answer a question that a couple of the new shahadas sent to me. Some of the new sisters asked me, is it true that we women pray differently than men? Some of the sisters, they attend some masajids, and the masajids are telling them that they pray a little differently. We don't have to bend all the way down and cover to our and place our hands over our knees. One sister said that they can bring the arms in closer and don't have to have their back straight so their derriere doesn't toot out. This is all garbage. I don't know where these brothers are getting their information from. Perhaps, they're just putting their own twist to things, which is what a lot of Muslims are doing today. They're putting their own twist or their own likes and dislikes to this religion, and that's not what Islam is based upon. I want all the new shahadas to remember that Islam is based on only two sources: the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And all actions of worship must be performed the way the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to perform them. And as Aisha radiallahu anha, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the first scholars of Islam, as she said when the women came to learn from her, when the Roman women came to learn the deen from her, as she told them, I heard some people say that we women pray differently than men. She said, this is not true. She said, we pray the same way that the men pray. So anyone telling you that because you are of the female gender, you don't have to have a straight back. You don't have to toot your derriere up. This is garbage. First of all, if a person is praying, what are they doing looking at your derriere? First of all, as Muslim women, and that's going to be a different topic here, we don't pray side by side with the men. Do you guys hear me with that? Because this is a big innovation, another innovation that's happened here in America. Oh, yeah. In the South. I'm always talking about the South here. Everything seems to begin and end with the South. They're saying that free mixing, that the women should pray with the men in the main musalla. Because this is what the Prophet did. That's not correct. First of all, we need to learn this religion and learn it correctly. First of all, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated to Medina, and that's when the Muslims were able to practice their religion openly. First of all, there were only a handful of them. There were not hundreds of women like you see in the masajids down there in Texas. Oh, yeah. There were not that type of people. There weren't that many people. And the Prophet did not put the women behind the men like that. Oh, no. That's not how they prayed. The women did not pray head to butt of the men. No. As Aisha radiallahu anha said, the men would pray in the front. The young boys would pray behind them. And then the women would pray in the back behind them. So there was a lot of distance between the women and the men in the prophet's time, even though it was a handful of them. They had the teenagers and the young boys. We're talking Ibn Abbas, Ibn Umar, Abu Huraira, and all the young boys, the teens and all, would be behind the men. The women prayed behind the boys. So there was distance between them and distance between the men. It's not like what you see in some of these masajids here in America, masajids in where the earthquake hit. Where did the earthquake hit today? LA. We have a masjid in LA that has free mixing. Y'all see where Allah sends his punishment? There's a mosque in LA that allows it's a large Islamic center. And the women and men pray basically next to each other. This is not Islam. That is not the way the female companions carried on with the men. Oh no. Oh no, there was a big distance between them. The boys and the teenagers were in front of the women, not no man. Aisha was not standing head to butt with Umar. So this misconception, remind me to edit this. This misconception, guys, that women and men, that the prophet companions prayed together, that the women and men all prayed side by side or right behind each other. That's not true. The Prophet Muhammad put the boys and the young men behind the men, and the women were in the back. So the men couldn't see the women. If the men looked behind them, between their legs, they saw other men, other boys, not the women. And also to let you guys know, there was a separate door. The Prophet, and we're going to go over them hadiths. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wouldn't even allow the men to get up when the prayer was over. And they would give salams and salam out the prayer. The Prophet would not even allow the men to leave until after the women had left. So there was no way that the men could turn around and say, hey, what's up, baby? Age, sex, location. That didn't happen in the Prophet's day. Oh, no. It was a big distance. The distance, like I said, was so big that they couldn't see the women because they had the boys behind the men. That's not based on distance. That's based on blocking. The Prophet used the human body as a wall because in the 6th century, they didn't have block buildings like that. So the Prophet used us, the human being, as a wall. What was the partition between the women and the men? The young boys. Y'all understand? What was the petition between the women and the men? The young boys. And the women were distanced away from them too. Hello. So don't get it twisted. This is the problem with America. This is why Allah is sending hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes to America. And look where these things are happening. You got these people that call themselves scholars. And look where the earthquake is happening. Right there. Look where the hurricanes are happening. Right there. Look where all the storms and natural calamities are happening. Right where these men and women are that are pretending to be scholars of this deen, who are thinking that they can change the religion to accommodate the feminist movement, to accommodate the LGBTQ, all because they have been promised positions of power and authority, and they have been promised fame and recognition, and they have been promised, a lot of them, money from the federal government. Don't get it twisted. From the federal government, the Democratic Party, to be technical, the Zionists themselves. Oh yeah, American politics. So whoever's telling you sisters this, they're a bunch of liars, and Allah is going to deal with them for lying on the prophet. Allah is going to deal with them for lying on the believer, the women of the mothers of the believers, because you would not see no woman standing behind a man's behind praying in no mosque. That ain't how it worked. And like I said, the prophet wouldn't even let the men leave until the women left. They couldn't even look around to see who was behind them. The prophet would tell them, stay where you are until the women leave. And we're going to go over that hadith tonight. Allah is Akbar, not man. Allah has protected this religion from being tampered with. Allah has preserved this beautiful way of life where these ignorant men and women of today cannot distort it. And like the prophet said, there'll always be a handful of believers that will try to uphold his sunnah. Well, inshallah, I am one of those handful. Inshallah, I am one of those handful who's here to set the record straight. There's no free mixing in Islam, and there's no free mixing in the prayer. And the prophet would never have allowed such sacrilege. So take your earthquake and understand it's Allah's curse upon you. You know, that mosque know who they are. Oh yeah. So that answers that question. We pray the same way the men do, and we don't pray shoulder to shoulder with them. We don't pray butt to head to butt to them. The women stand in the back, way in the back, way in the back. And the young men are between you and the brothers so that they can't see you, so they can't flirt with you, so they can't look at your derriere, so they can't call themselves distracted by the colors you wear. How can you be distracted when the women are not even around you? They're in the back, a big enough distance where there was no fitting. How much was the distance? The distance was so great that there was no fitting. And what was the partition? The partition was the human body. Just like if somebody came to my house to pray, let's just say that I invited some of the brothers. Let's say I was married. Let's say my husband invited 4 brothers over for dinner and their wives. If we were going to pray, and their children, if we were going to pray together, the men would stand in the front. We'd gather all the children. We'd put the young boys behind the men, and we women would stand way back from them, and we'd pray that way. Y'all understand? So when they tell you the prophet didn't pray with a partition, that's really not true. He did have a partition. The partition was the human body, the young boys. That hadith is Sahih Bukhari. The young boys, as Aisha said, were between us. And she says, so the men couldn't see us. You brothers need to learn these hadiths. Just because you memorized how to sing the Quran don't make you no scholar. Until you learn those hadiths, you will never, ever, ever understand the Quran. And until you learn Aisha, radiallahu anha's fatwas, you will really never understand this religion. Because she breaks it down in detail. Women are more articulate than men. Women like to talk, so we give more details. Just like I'm giving more details than you brothers give. Y'all say, oh, no partition. Oh, that's a lie. What's the little boys? Isn't that a partition? It's called human body. We women are smarter than you brothers. More articulate. So you better learn Aisha's fatwas. Okay? And again, nowadays we have separate rooms. And this is another lie too. I also heard that one of these famous personalities said that even under the four caliphs, that's not true. Uthman, may Allah be pleased with him, was the one who began the biggest expansion of the mosque and the city of Medina. He was the one that built houses that were 2 and 3 stories high. He was the one that expanded the mosque in size and number of rooms. The women did have areas that they could go to during his caliph and after to pray. So I don't know where these brothers are getting their information from. They're not learning the hadiths. And they're totally disregarding the fatwas of Salama, the fatwas of Aisha, radiallahu anha, the fatwas of Zainab, the daughter of the Prophet. You brothers got to stop picking and choosing what y'all want to accept. And you may complain on the ignorance of Western Muslims who don't know no better. But there are some of us Eastern Muslims, like right here, who was born here and do know better. So y'all need to stop it. Stop misleading these American Muslims. Stop misleading them just so you can get across your agenda for fame. Your agenda for fame that was promised to you by the White House here in America. You and your White House. There'll always be a handful of us to call you out, prove you wrong.